Hello everyone and welcome to another random video on the internet. Today we'll be looking at a scenario that I personally find very intriguing. Now, some of you may have rolled your eyes when you saw the title of this video, and I don't blame you. Boros turning good is a pretty outlandish scenario. When would he? Why would he? But hear me out on this one. It's not as unlikely as you think. With only a couple seemingly pretty small changes, I think the scenario can be realized without seeming too unrealistic. First of all, let's establish the point in time that this could happen. I feel like the best and pretty much only time Boros could convert is when Saitama serious punches him and they have their conversation. In this timeline, let's say that Saitama puts just a little bit less effort into his punch. Enough not to kill Boros, but still seriously wound him and deflect the collapsing star roaring cannon. Or maybe Saitama punches a little to the left or to the right, so Boros doesn't get hit with the shockwave head on, but instead just gets grazed by it. It's not that Saitama doesn't want to kill Boros or anything, but it's just that he misses slightly or thinks that he needs less force to kill Boros than he actually does. Either way, Boros survives with great damage sustained. He and Saitama have the same talk that they did in the original. Boros declares that Saitama is too strong, however this time, knowing that he's going to regenerate soon, Boros asks Saitama a question.
Do you think, given enough time, I could ever catch up to you?
I don't know, but I do have some advice. If you want to have fun, you shouldn't get any stronger.
Perhaps you're right. You're the only satisfying opponent I've found in decades. Say, are there any more people like you on this planet? Ones who would be fun to fight?
As far as I can tell, I'm the strongest one here. Every monster I encounter dies in one hit, even the biggest ones. You're the first to survive a punch. Although I haven't faced any heroes. Maybe some of them might be strong?
Heroes, monsters. Seems this world might have something to offer. Maybe you just haven't run into some of the stronger foes here.
Maybe.
Say, if you're not planning on killing me, would you mind if I stayed on this planet for a while? I have nowhere else to go, seeing as you destroyed my ship.
Saitama tilts his head and thinks for a moment. As long as you don't go around destroying stuff, I don't see a problem with that. Just don't make me punch you again. Now, I know this might sound a bit forced and unnatural, but Saitama is a very laid-back guy. He genuinely doesn't register dangerous individuals as a threat a lot of the time. I'm pretty sure that if Boros promised to live peacefully, he wouldn't have many problems with it. But surely an alien monster like Boros walking around in a populated city would be considered a threat by the Hero Association, right? Well, there just so happens to be a certain abandoned city that only Saitama and Genos live in. It's already considered to be overrun by monsters, and adding one more wouldn't raise anyone's suspicions. The problem is getting Boros there without having any of the S-Class heroes present notice him. But I feel like if Saitama just pointed Boros in the direction of Z-City, he could just jump there from the top of his ship. It's certainly within his capability, and the S-Class didn't notice the collapsing star-roaring cannon going off, so I'm 100% certain that a simple jump wouldn't be noticed either. I feel like Boros might want to just come down and fight the S-Class right away, but at the same time, he's already just had a satisfying battle, and the S-Class finding out about his presence on Earth immediately would complicate things a bit. So let's just say that Boros retreats to Z-City while Saitama goes to get Genos. Their interactions with Tatsumaki remain the same. Meanwhile, Boros arrives at Z-City and starts looking around. Everything on Earth, and I mean everything, would be completely new to him. The architecture, the streets, the interiors. One thing to remember is that Boros is 2.4 meters tall, so he'd almost be a giant in human society. All the doors would be too short for him, all the beds, all the tables, the chairs would collapse from his weight when he tries to sit on them, plates would break upon even the slightest touch of his fingers. He'd accidentally pull off plenty of door handles while trying to enter any building and so on. What would make this even worse is that his armor is broken, and as far as we know, he doesn't have a spare, or at least not anymore now that his ship's been destroyed. So all this time, Boros would be in his released form. Imagine released Boros radiating lightning and energy, trying to stay in a normal human apartment. Boros spends a couple hours looking around and trying to adjust his power, which is extremely hard without his armor. Saitama and Genos then arrive, and the Caped Baldy introduces Demon Cyborg and the Dominator of the Universe to each other. Genos would of course be concerned about this, but we see numerous times that he wholeheartedly believes that everything Saitama does is the optimal course of action. Genos might be on guard, but he wouldn't attack Boros or anything like that, and Boros would probably be a little interested in the level of technology on this planet now after seeing Genos. We also see that Boros has the capability to judge a person's power by looking at them. I think Saitama was just like above his sensory capabilities, so that's why he couldn't sense a limit to his power, but otherwise he should be able to evaluate most characters in the show somewhat accurately. So he'd probably see that Genos is pretty powerful and has potential to grow a lot stronger, and note that in the back of his head. After the introductions are over, one of two things could happen. One, they all just go hang out in Saitama's apartment, which Saitama wouldn't like at all since Boros would destroy everything on accident. And two, Genos might actually challenge Boros to a fight. I imagine Saitama would have told Genos that Boros survived a few punches from him and is the strongest person he's ever encountered. And we know Genos never passes up an opportunity to test himself and see where he's at compared to his master. And Boros is not going to turn that offer down. I feel like the chances of this spar happening are pretty great, so let's make it happen. Genos takes Boros and Saitama to the wasteland where he fought Saitama originally, and the fight begins. Boros tells Genos to attack him, wanting to see what level the cyborg is at to know how much power to use. The following battle is similar to Genos' spar with Saitama, except Boros pretty much never dodges and always takes everything Genos throws at him head on. He tanks through all of Genos' punches, kicks, and beams. The fight ends with Boros one-punching the cyborg. Since it's super hard for Boros to control his power apparently, he probably deals significant damage to Genos' body, somewhat akin to what Goketsu did to him. Maybe even a little worse. This means that Genos gets his start of Season 2, or G4 as some people refer to it, upgrade sooner than in the original, because his current body isn't capable of functioning anymore. Kuseno probably makes Genos more powerful than he was at the start of Season 2 because of the extra data that would have been gathered during the Boros fight. He might be on par with his post-Goketsu self at the start of Season 2, so he's considerably stronger as stated by Kuseno himself in the original. After this, Boros would try to get adjusted to life on Earth, attempting to suppress his power, learn to use human equipment, and so on. Luckily, he has plenty of abandoned buildings to practice in. A few dozen apartments later, he might be able to adapt. Maybe. Boros also soon learns of the hero ranks and the threat levels, probably from Genos. Another thing I want to cover is the VGS, Virtual Genocide System. For those of you who don't know, in an audiobook, Dr. Kuseno creates a headset that can simulate battles between the wearer and the monster data stored in the VGS. Genos receives this headset before Season 2 and trains with it, even inviting some heroes to join him as well. I'm not going to go over the entire plot of the story here, so if you don't know about it, I suggest checking out a video explaining it before continuing with this video. I'll give you 5 seconds to pause this video and do that. Okay, so now that everyone's on the same page, I'm pretty sure you know where this is going. Genos will upload released Boros into the simulation since he's fought him. Though this simulated Boros is going to be a lot weaker than real Boros because Boros held back against Genos in their fight. So, after Darkshine defeats Carnage Kabuto with high difficulty, he asks if Genos has any other monsters for him to fight. And Genos' answer is a resounding yes. He uploads Boros into the system and Darkshine bumps his fists together, ready for another bout. Now, normally I would say that released Boros annihilates Darkshine, but this is a suppressed Boros who didn't even kill Genos in a single punch, so the fight is fierce. A rushdown brawler fighter versus an unstoppable tank. I believe Darkshine would win this one, but only because Boros was massively suppressed against Genos. The fight is vicious, with Darkshine having the clear power and durability advantage, but Boros' speed, relentless attacks, regeneration, energy blasts, and ferocity make the battle last a long time. Eventually, Darkshine is able to pull out the victory. He's satisfied with the fight. If only he could fight a monster like that in the real world. Genos considers telling him about the real Boros, knowing that the alien would definitely enjoy this as well, but without Saitama's permission, he doesn't say anything. Other than that, the VGS continues like it did originally. He might try to give the headset to Boros, but I feel like he would try to give it to Saitama first, and then Saitama would just break it. Now the question is, what happens next? Well, Boros very quickly gets bored of laying low. He runs into wolf and tiger level monsters occasionally, but they don't interest him at all and he kills them with utter ease. Though I feel like Boros might try asking them where they come from and if there's any strong monsters around. Eventually, he's bound to run into a member of the Monster Association. Let's say he spots Awakened Cockroach at some point and approaches him. The bug, thinking that Boros is a monster who hates heroes like any other monster, tells him about the Monster Association. About how they are planning a war with the Hero Association, how they have several threat-level dragon cadres, and how Orochi is supposedly the strongest monster on Earth. Hearing all of this, Boros becomes excited, but keeps his cool and smirks.
So, this Monster Association is essentially the gathering of all the strongest monsters this planet has to offer, right?
Weird phrasing, but essentially.
Very well then. Take me to your leader.
And this is where I'm going to leave the story off for now. I know this is a wacky scenario, but One Punch Man is a wacky series, so I feel like it balances out. I think you can tell where this story might be headed next. But anyways, that has been it for me today. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I hope you have an awesome day. Goodbye.